13 years as a software engineer, which, I guess that tells you a few things. One, I'm completely out of my normal habitat up here, right? This isn't a dark hole where I can sit behind some screens. Also, it means this is as dressed up as I get. So, but the other thing it tells you, or I guess that you'll infer, is that I'm the guy that most people don't let you talk to at their company. And probably for good reason, because I tell you how the integrations actually work. So, yeah. And so 365 Connect has exclusively served the multifamily industry for 20 years. We currently hold 96 technology awards, and our mission is to change the way people interact and transact with their communities. All right, so you've probably seen this guy before, probably knocking on your inbox, and he came around trying to sell you something he calls leasing. Well, I'm here to tell you that we're taking back the term leasing, because he only started calling it that when you stopped responding to marketing. So in our world, leasing is a signed lease with money and somebody that's ready to move in. So keep that in mind as we go forward. Oh, I missed my cue. Anyway, not leasing, right? So yeah, so next time you see this guy, you can tell him, that's not leasing. All right, so today's challenges. So rents are starting to weaken. Actually, while I was perusing LinkedIn over the weekend, I saw something about how November is the third month in a row with declining rents. On top of that, we're dealing with people problems where we're trying to find, train, and retain people. I call that the triple threat. And then on top of all that, we still have the expectations of our renters, which remain high. So what's the solution to these problems? First, we need to start by eliminate redundant tasks, like copying and pasting leases together. We need to move from centralized to autonomized, and we can do that by utilizing flexible platforms and workflows that are able to intelligently generate leases, and all that can be done without any of your staff. So the last mile in our industry is getting a signed lease. So let me show you how we do that utilizing our automated leasing platform. So first, we like to start by taking people on a shopping spree where they're able to go through, select their unit, any type of rentable features your community has to offer. From there, they can add those things such as like maybe parking, pets, or storage. From there, we show them the summarized detail of everything that they're applying for, which is what you see up on the screen. And then once we do that, we want to know exactly who is moving into your community, and we do that by sending them a link where they're able to capture the front and back of their ID, which then is compared against a biometric screening. So at this point, now that they've been verified, they're able to continue on through the application process. So since we know who they are, we temporarily pull it off the out of inventory so that you don't have people double applying for units. So imagine if somebody came up, applied for your community, only to get to the end of that application and find out somebody just took that from them. How disappointed would they be? I mean, I'd be pretty upset if it was me. I'd probably kick this chair, walk out of here. I'd be pretty upset. So we temporarily reserve it for them. Our application is built kind of like Legos, where you're able to add and remove any type of fields and customize it to your individual communities. So basically what I'm trying to say is this isn't some cheap one-size-fits-all application that you bought down at the big box multifamily software store. This is something, and actually if on the screens you can see an example of something that we can include as part of the workflow where people are able to get qualified on their income and they're given appropriate options, and then all that's to help you get somebody that's better qualified and has a higher chance to convert. All right, so now that they've completed that application, they have a signed, dated, time-stamped IP address. We got their location, so we got all that on all parties that have been involved so far. So all of that gets packaged together, payment is initiated, which is seamlessly built into our platform utilizing APIs. And we do that so that we can get an immediate verification of funds. And so once we get that immediate verification of funds, what we do is we kick off the process by shipping them over to the screener, where we do an additional synthetic identity verification. So I think at this point, we might know more about them than their own mother knows about them. So from there, we're able to kind of package this thing together and get it shipped. So just real quick, I want to go ahead and just kind of go through that process again. Remember, we started off this by taking a picture of the front and back of their ID, and we compared that to their biometric data. And we did that to make sure that they're the same person applying that they're applying as, right? And then from there, once we knew the money was good, we shipped them off to Screener, who did this additional synthetic identity verification. So all right, so now that we have somebody that's been approved, utilizing intelligent automation, we're able to generate that lease. And we did that on the most utilized leasing documents in the industry, Blue Moon. So with a lease and addendum created, along with that lease invoice, we then package it up and send it back to the resident and anybody that's signing the lease. So any residents or future residents, I should say, that have been shipped this package, they receive an access code where they can securely access that lease along with that final invoice that they need to pay. From there, once they execute all that, we're able to package it all together and deliver it to your property electronically. And all that just happened without any human intervention. So congratulations, y'all just got a new resident. And you know what? It probably happened at 2 in the morning while your competition was sleeping, dreaming of getting leases. And so I also want to take a second to mention that everything I just talked about is ADA certified by a third party. And it gets recertified by that third party every 6 months. So as the owner of our company likes to say, even Stevie Wonder could apply and live at your community. So isn't that lovely? And even though 365 Connect has been a leader in digital inclusion over the last 4 years, well, let me take a minute to say that when I say digital inclusion and being ADA certified, I'm not talking about slapping an accessibility widget on your site and thinking you're good. And I mean, I get it. It sounds like a great cheat code, right? Slap 2 lines of code on your site and you're good to go, and all your problems are solved. Unfortunately, I hate to be the ones to tell you this, but they're highly litigated, and they are not 100%. If you don't believe me, we can show you lawsuits because we get brought in as experts for accessibility litigation. And as a matter of fact, we'll be talking to the Louisiana Bar Association on this very topic. So if you want to learn a little bit more about ADA, come see us. We'd like to geek out on that stuff. All right, so even though everything I just showed you has never been done before in our industry, don't think for 1 minute that we're done, because next we're going to create a real leasing bot. So stay tuned.
So my name is Jacob Nielsen. I work for Dwello, and Dwello is one of the leading smart apartment providers in the industry here in the US. And what I wanted to share today is this challenge that ownership groups have of going from something that used to be an amenity, something that's potentially kind of an add-on, to now it's the new generation of renters are coming in and they expect this. It's not just a nice to have, it's a need to have. And the challenge is it can be very complicated to do this. If you have gone through this journey before, you know that it's a lot more difficult than just flipping the switch. And the truth is, when it comes to all the complexity that you have to work with, you've got to figure out integrations. There's no one company that does it all, and that's partly because it's just complicated and we have to work together. But the other reason is there's no one community that's the same. These communities are not cookie cutter. Every installation is its own challenge and its own set of limitations and constraints that we have to work through. So how do we get through this? Well, our goal at Dwello is to really guide and navigate this process and take you by the hand and basically ensure that you're fully educated on all the options, and then we tailor the option that's ideal for your community. And it's going to be community by community. One of the things that we think is this shouldn't be hard. This should be easy. You should be able to flip a switch and be able to enable your residents to have these great experiences with smart devices. And the truth is, it's not even really there yet in consumer products. If you think about if you have tried to create a smart home in your house, there are a number of options, but in the end, something's not going to talk to something else, and you're going to have to deal with that. And that's what we want to educate and help our customers get through. So we've been in this business for a while. We've been doing this since 2015, and we've had our fair share of community exposure, ownership group strategies, as well as resident demographics, which also plays a big role. It's going to be a very different approach to smart apartment if you have a demographic that's closer to the senior citizen than it is to the Gen Z or even millennials. And all of this has to be factored in. Not only that, but you've got to think through the systems that you have in place, because most likely, even if one company did do everything, you don't want to do a lift and shift of all of your systems and processes onto a whole new platform, because that's going to be very difficult. So what we try to do is we simplify this process. We take you through the process of evaluation. We go and do on-site inspections. We have very detailed criteria that we're looking for, everything from the dimensions of the boreholes on every door as to what are the community's software integrations in place. And once we have that, we can put together a very custom, tailored solution for your community. And when that's done, we partner with the systems that you're already using, say it's Yardi or RealPage or your property management group, and we work with them step by step to do the implementation. And not only do we work with them, but we also go and install ourselves. So we feel it's incredibly important to have this easy implementation process where it's not about trying to train you and your staff on all of this new stuff. It's about just telling us, do it for me. I'd rather not have to go through the pain of trying to make sure all of my staff is up to speed on the latest and greatest in tech. That's our job. So we make it a point of pride to do that. And lastly, probably the thing that could be the main differentiator for our business is our goal is not to just get product in your communities and start billing. It's to ensure that your residents and your managers and your leasing staff and maintenance staff are able to leverage all this technology and reduce your costs and raise your NOI, and also raise your rent premiums. So we partner with you. We have dedicated customer service teams and account managers that are constantly watching, how is this community doing? How is our ownership doing? We do quarterly business reviews with the ownership group to just double check. This isn't a thing where we want to install this highly technical and difficult hardware and then say, see you later. This is a partnership. It's a long-term partnership, and our goal is the same as yours. We want to ensure your communities are more efficient and more valuable. So with all of this said, we focus on smart apartments, and the attempt is, with every smart apartment, we want to make it super seamless for the resident to get set up and for the maintenance staff to get notified of issues, and for the manager to understand how is this impacting the health and value of my community. So we integrate with the leading property management providers. We ensure that rent roll is synced automatically. That way there's not this manual extra step, oh, now I got to go into another system to do this little thing. We want to take that away. And anytime you're updating your primary system, it's going to update our system in parallel. And what that does is it makes it easy. That way you don't have to worry about, did my customer get this new email or to activate their system? And if not, what do I do about it? Well, it's going to be automated. And in some cases, we'll even have that automation enable reporting that goes back to you to see what's being used. How can I know if this is even effective? Does any of my residents even care? And we can provide that kind of data to you so that you have good visibility on the return on investment. Additionally, with Smart Apartment, there's basically, you can almost think of it as 3 general approaches to your options for upgrading your community with smart devices. Certainly, locks are a primary interest to get updated because locks are physical keys. They're just a pain to manage. A quick story, I was at a property once that these poor maintenance techs were using their key maker, and it was like a vending machine, and they just would have to go back and make another key. I don't know where the last key went. One's in a pizza box somewhere, and the other is with Jim, who left the company last year. And that's a problem. That creates liability. It creates issues when it comes to just managing all the inventory and knowing who's got access to what. Our system makes that simple. We have roles that are set up that can mirror the roles that are in your property management system. So that way, if someone's added or removed, they're also added and removed from our system, not only the residents, but also the property staff. And this way, you can ensure I've got the right access set up with the right people at the right time. The other next step, so the first step being locks, the next step up would be smart apartments. And with locks, you're not typically able to raise rent a lot, right? It's like the customer might think it's kind of cool, but I don't know if they're going to be willing to spend an extra $30 just to have a smart lock, though it is very beneficial from an operations standpoint. And so the next piece is smart apartment. And with smart apartment, there's really 2 basic packages you can think about. The first is I just want convenience. I want the ability to turn on and off lights, adjust my thermostat remotely, schedule it, and also have access to locks. And then it'd also be good if I get notified of leaks. So if there's a leak at the water heater or the toilet, I'm going to be notified. And it won't just leak into all of the other units that ends up becoming a large insurance cost. And so that's kind of the first basic set of smart apartment. The next set of smart apartment is added security. So when you think about the consumer smart home space, oftentimes there's the convenience side of it, but there's also home security. How do I know if my space is secure? How do I know who's been in and out? And is somebody in my unit right now? If so, who was it? Was it the maintenance person or was it the boogeyman? I don't know. You want to figure these things out. And that's where the security piece comes into play. It allows you to add sensors that have long battery life. These are Z-Wave products, which is a technology that's been around quite a long time with very good success. And there's also the ability to add motion and even doorbell cams. We're very excited about the doorbell camera that we're working on because it's going to be totally integrated into the overall system. But it adds a lot more premium feel. So when you start selling this property, in terms of leasing, not necessarily in terms of selling the overall community, but in terms of leasing it, you can show these very high-end, valuable experiences to your residents, and in turn, demand a rent premium. But I think the key thing I want to harp on is that service is what sets us apart. So again, our goal is to think through all of these details. And I'll give you an example. I just literally got off, I was actually kind of barely made it in time because I was working through a community situation where some locks were one type and the rest of the locks were another. It's on us as your provider to help you sort that out. This isn't an arm's length thing. We want to help, we want to work with you to sort it out. Which communities have which type of lock and which one's going to be maximum beneficial to you. and have that long-lasting reliability and value for the property. So with that, we absolutely take ownership of the experience. We guarantee the quotes. When we make a quote, it's based on an actual inspection of on-site technicians. And we don't charge for that. That's something we want to do just so we can ensure your experience is good. And we also we take a lot of pride in resolving issues that come up. This is technology. All of us know issues are going to come up. I can't stand here and tell you everything's going to be perfect. It won't. But what really matters is, are you going to have the people who take an ownership mindset to help me through these problems when they do come up? And that's it for me. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
All right. So our mission here is to advocate for our customers by protecting them against the negative financial implications of severe storm damage. And our vision is that every property owner is aware of their unique storm damage risks and is prepared to restore them. Now, put it more simply is, my job is to make sure you have the tools and processes in place to make that happen. So we're going to go into a little bit further here, but I'm really going to talk to you about three things here. And these aren't going to be new concepts to you, but I'm going to have you look at them a little differently. So by raise of hands, who's heard this phrase, you make your money on the buy? A few of you? Okay. I'm not going to tell you about how that happens, but what I'm going to say is, I'm going to teach you here to look at it through maybe a slightly different lens. And the idea is that we're going to transform every investment opportunity into what I would call a needle in the haystack deal. The next one is proactive beats reactive. That's pretty common sense, but what I want to do is show you a way where you can take some existing processes and make them very much proactive and eliminate a lot of the times where you guys are chasing down problems constantly, putting out fires, and it's really annoying. It's something we don't want to do. And the final one here is don't go to court without a lawyer. Now, literally, I do mean that, but I don't mean that. What I mean by this is that when it comes to insurance claims, you would never want to go into an insurance claim on a high dollar value property without an expert that understands damage identification. They understand the insurance processes, the estimating, the evaluation, and then also how to handle a large-scale commercial project. So that's something that we're going to bring into this. It really sets us apart from everyone else. So in order to best, I think, explain this, I'm going to tell you a quick story here. It kind of outlines how these processes work. So I want to introduce you to my friend. This is Frank. Everybody wave to Frank. So Frank is a multi-site property manager. And one of Frank's responsibilities is that he's got a problem right now with a really short time frame to solve it. And it's budget season, and he's got to put a budget together for an exterior restoration, kind of a renovation and improvement project, but he doesn't have very much time. So he's already contacted a contractor. They're going to provide an estimate, and he's going to put all this stuff together with the hopes that he can submit a package and a proposal and get approval for it. So fast forward, in barely little time left, Frank gets this done. He submits it, gets it approved. He comes up with a $2.5 million valuation or proposition. And the investors say, yeah, it looks good. We want to put the money into this property. So it gets approved. Now, by raise of hands, do you see any problems here yet? Not really, right? That's a good thing. So I'm going to tell you that Frank made a huge, huge mistake. And the reason why you don't see it is I didn't give you all the information yet. You've probably seen this before, but what you didn't know is that the property was previously managed by one of his colleagues, and they kind of fell behind on their work. And there was a bunch of things that were left undone. This left them in a position where, really there was no other course of action, and they resigned. So Frank steps in as a hero and says, all right, I'm going to take care of all this stuff. Where are all the issues? It's a pile of service records and things like that he has to get through, but the number one priority is getting this budget approved. So in doing so, I guess you could say he was successful. What you don't know, and what Frank didn't know, is that in the prior year, that property sustained a loss from a hailstorm that went through, caused pretty severe damage. Now, the records of that are gone. Nobody really remembers it. And why they didn't notice it is that there were no leaks reported. Nobody really knew about it. And because the untrained eye doesn't really recognize these indicators, the maintenance teams on site didn't take any action, didn't do anything about it. So that's when Frank and his team come in. They're like, all right, we're going to get started on this project. We can go ahead with it in 1 month, probably take us 2 months to get it completed, and everything's good. Well, what they didn't know is they missed the big opportunity to file an insurance claim. And in doing so, what they really did is they took this $2.5 million project and turned it into a loss on the investment of that asset. So you took a win and you just turned it into a big loss, right? So one of the things that we do, and we don't expect this of Frank, I mean, Frank's not trained in this stuff. His maintenance team doesn't know how to recognize these things. But we offer solutions that can help them into that. So I don't want to go too far into it just yet, but Frank's not in a good place right now. So to give you a little more context about all this stuff, I want to go through some numbers and really talk about how big of an issue or how big of a miss is this right now. So there's a company out there, it's called CoreLogic, and what they do is property data analytics. And they estimate that 1 in every 10 homes in 2021 were impacted by some sort of natural disaster. That's 14.5 million homes, but even more so, that's $57 billion worth of damage. I tried to look it up. I can't remember. What did Twitter sell for recently? That's like 40-some billion. So it's more than that. Now, that's every single year. Of those, almost 55% of that damage goes unreported, unrecognized, and most importantly, unclaimed. So the insurance companies are profiting off all this of claims that should be paid to the owners of the properties. So one of the things that's also important is that early detection or awareness is really important because there are some states where you have a certain time frame where you can only file a claim. And so knowing about it early on is really important. But lastly, when there is a claim that's filed, about 85% of those have claims that are either underpaid, underreported, or maybe even have missed damages by the adjuster. So I think you can see that the opportunity is really big, right? So I want to circle back here. There's really those 3 things that I talked about. There is 3 points I want to get across. The first one is you make your money on the buy. And I want you to be thinking about all these things as I go through this kind of wrap up. The second one is proactive beats reactive every day. And the third one is don't go to court without your lawyer. So let's kind of get back to Frank here and come full circle. I don't want you leaving here today thinking Frank got fired or Frank's in a bad spot or something like that, because really he's not. What they did in his company is they took the lessons they learned in that experience and they changed their process around investing in asset management strategies. And they took that and basically said, all right, what can we do differently so that this doesn't happen again? Now, I'm not a sales guy, but I'm going to talk to you about some of our services because I think it's relevant. We have what's called a 24/7 asset monitoring service. And what this does, it allows us to monitor all your properties. And then when storms do occur, we let you know about them right away. And that gives you the information you need to make some really smart decisions around it. We can also quantify the damage and say, listen, it's not that bad. We've done an inspection. We've got a report. Here you go. Here's your documentation that you need. If it is bad enough, we have all that stuff in place. So maybe the next step is you're going to file an insurance claim. And when we do that, we have this comprehensive loss assessment that's also going to include an estimate or a scope of loss for this damage. So that when you go into an insurance claim with an adjuster, 1, we're representing you from start to finish as your expert and your advocate. But 2, you've set the case for what this is and what you're claiming. Puts you in the best position possible to have what I would call a winnable insurance claim. So kind of here as I wrap up, I know I'm running out of time. There's a couple things I want to point out. Is 1, hopefully I gave you some information today just to scratch the surface on some changes you can make to your investment and asset management strategies. And I think as I outline those tools and processes, I don't know, Patrick, you tell me, I may have justified all your costs right here to pay for this summit. So that might be good news. But if you want to talk about it further, you can reach me here. But basically, what I want you to tell or take away from this is that, looking at Frank's story, what that really did is demonstrate that even in these uncertain times of the economy, there's still some really, really good deals out there. It's just that you guys might need some help in finding them. And that's what you're here to offer.
Thanks, Patrick, for having me, and very good to meet all of you. My name is Henson Orser, and I'm one of the founders of Two Dots. And we're going to talk about leasing automation, tenant screening, and how you guys can prevent fraudulent applicants from ending up in your homes, which is one of the most costly things that can happen on site. And when we start talking about tenant screening with owners and operators, we talk about three different legs of the stool. One is your traditional credit, criminal, and eviction report, and that's not something we do, and pretty much everybody does that on every tenant. The other two really important pieces that every good operator is doing is income and employment verification, making sure whoever is moving in on site, it's a job. That means they're going to be able to pay the rent on time. And then identity verification. So the person who you think is moving in and you've done the credit check on is actually moving in. And traditionally, income and employment and identity verification have always been done on site, and then you purchase the credit, criminal, and eviction reports. And we've developed technology that instead allows you to fully automate those other two legs of the stool, income and identity. But to talk a little bit about the problem set as a whole before we get into our technology, stating the obvious, leasing fraud is a problem that became really serious once the internet basically came around, and it became very easy for people to fake pay stubs, bank statements, Social Security benefits letters, the types of things that your site staff use to make sure that somebody's qualified to live in the building. And I think one of the most interesting high-level stats we see amongst our data nationally is that over 50% of the leasing documents that we automatically process for site staff that are fake can no longer be caught with the naked eye because it's so easy for applicants to generate this stuff online with a simple Google. And it used to be that folks would look really closely at a bank statement, they might compare it to a pay stub, they might call the employer, and all of these sort of traditional best practices that you would have on site to avoid fraud problems and avoid costly evictions are increasingly falling short in the modern day and age. Leasing is becoming entirely online. In many cases, it's becoming fully automated. Nobody is coming into the leasing office, shaking hands with anyone anymore. And that means that even if you are operating with the traditional best practices, fraud has still become a big problem for you. And not only that, but what people want when they are renting an apartment is to basically have the entire process be automated. They don't want to come have a conversation with a human in a leasing office anymore. And not only do your new applicants want to apply online, be approved online, and move in without meeting a human being, it's also significantly cheaper operationally for you guys to operate your buildings that way. And even though this is a people business and a physical business, one of the number one reasons, according to Zillow's survey, that folks end up not renewing their leases is because of their experience with site staff. So the couple rock stars who are on site that make the resident experience really wonderful do provide a lot of value, but your average site staffer is actually probably a reason that somebody is moving out. So, two big high-level numbers that we provide, and I'll get to the math at the end. So, one, through the automation of the income and identity fraud prevention, we typically save a multifamily owner-operator $1 million per 10,000 units. And we'll get to the math on that on the final slide. And then in addition, we've also fully automate what used to be a highly manual process of folks looking at pay stubs, looking at bank statements, looking at photo IDs, and instead just deliver either an approval or a denial using our software and our AI. So if you assume that it's taking about an hour and a half to do all that paperwork processing, that ends up per 10,000 units in about 15,000 hours of automated labor that we bring to the table. So how do we do it? There are three layers to our software. The first is basically the most advanced document fraud detection system that exists in the market. So, it can be thought of as pretty simply as like one of the best trained, document fraud detection AIs out there, where this, computer system has seen 1 million Bank of America bank statements, it's seen 1 million ADP pay stubs. And what that means is it knows when it is processing one of these documents if it has the right fonts, if the labels look right. We do over 50 of these checks on documents. We can actually see whether documents have been digitally signed by the institution that releases them. We can actually roll back documents. It's kind of hard to see on the screen, but there's a screenshot there of a fake pay stub that we caught at a Southern California property manager, and we can actually show when we catch these folks what the previous number was before the applicant edited the document. In this case, they changed their gross pay from $1,500 to $2,000. So that's sort of step one, is making sure that all of these documents being submitted are real. And then step two, we're scanning folks' photo IDs, making sure that their face matches the face that's on the photo ID, so doing basically selfie biometric matching. We're also making sure that the data on the ID matches data in a DMV database. So we're making sure the person is who they say they are, they're applying with a real ID, and they are that person, after we've made sure that all the other documents they've submitted are real. And then what we finally do is we take all of this data and we look at it holistically, like a really good site staffer normally would. So like your best trained site staffer is going to say, okay, like does this pay stub have a matching direct deposit on the bank statement? Does the name on this photo ID match the name on the pay stub, match the name on the proof of renter's insurance? And we look at that holistically, as well as calculating someone's income by extracting off the documents, and give somebody an overall either approval or denial based on their income and identity. So no longer are the site staff involved in this process at all. Instead, you just get an approval or a denial delivered directly to the site staff without them having to look at the pay stubs or the bank statements, et cetera. So again, at a high level, what does this type of stuff do in terms of returns to your portfolio? That $1 million per 10,000 units a year. We have a 14,000 unit manager. We've been processing all their apps for the last year across California. And a little over 2% of all of the pay stubs and bank statements that have been submitted across their properties were fake over the last year. And we have caught the vast majority of those folks and reduced their eviction rate by 50%. So assuming about a $10,000 cost per eviction, it's actually higher in California given some places have eviction moratoriums. That's how you get to that $1 million number. And then in addition, we have all the benefits of fully automating this process, which sometimes isn't even being done correctly by site staff. So that's two dots. My name is Henson. We've got about 3 minutes and change left, and if anyone has any questions, I'd love to answer them. You mind saying your name and standing up for the mic?
Daria Elgin with Zillow Group. Just curious if you've had anybody slip through the cracks.
Yeah, it's a great question. It is very rare. I can't think of an individual story yet where somebody has been able to slip through the cracks with us. We've been operating at scale nationally for a year. But, I guess there might have to be one in the future. But no, not yet. The turnaround time, assuming they gave all the right information we need, is 2 hours. Yeah. You mean specifically for affordable housing or market rate or just in general?
Check on a criminal background.
Yeah, so our clients typically use this solution in conjunction with a separate credit, criminal, and eviction background check. So we don't do credit, we don't do criminal, and there are a whole bunch of regulations around credit and criminal on both a state-by-state basis and on a county-by-county basis, and we don't touch any of that. And if you wanted to use us, you would use us in conjunction with whatever provider is already giving you those services. What we do is we automate the income and employment verification piece, making sure that somebody has enough cash flow to pay the rent consistently on time, as well as the identity piece, making sure the person, when they apply, is who they claim to be. And those two pieces are not regulated in any way other than, fair housing, where you need to evaluate everyone the same and, not discriminate based on race, et cetera.
Okay, there is also a regulation in Idaho and Oregon where if you call a previous landlord, if they give the tenant a negative rating, they can be sued by the tenant. Is any of that
Yeah, so
feature in?
yeah, we don't do rental references, and we'd actually advise most people not to do rental references. If you call up a previous landlord and they have a terrible tenant, their incentive is actually to tell you they were an awesome tenant, and get them out of the home. It's super, super, super time consuming to do rental references. It's a big burden on site staff, and what we find speaking with most large institutional operators is that the response rates on doing rental references goes down pretty much every single year. So I don't know anything about that particular regulation or law, but I would say generally about rental references, A, we don't do them because we're a technology company and you would need a big team of people at phone banks to do that. And B, it's really hard to get that data on lots of people, so you might as well not collect it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
What are the specific things that you ask from the leasing agent then for you to do your job?
Yeah, so typically we remove the leasing agent from the process, and you don't have to change your online application, and we just kind of suck the data out of the online application. If we need anything more from the applicants, then we'll text them directly. So we don't really require anything of the site staff. And in order to verify someone's income and identity, we typically need either a pay stub, a bank statement, a benefit verification letter. We do allow people to link their bank account directly. We require a photo ID to verify their identity, support over 200 forms of photo ID. But all of the standard documents that are typically required when applying for an apartment.
And do you do it for large organizations only, or do you do it for smaller, a dozen unit? Duplex, complex, something like that?
Yeah, we don't have any clients who are smaller than 3,000 units at the moment, but we will probably be releasing a product in Q1 or Q2, which is more self-service.
Okay, thank you.
We got one final question over here.
So why 2 dots?
Why 2 dots? Oh, I mean, company names are kind of like band names. You pick 2 words that sound sort of cool together. That's the short story. There's a much longer personal story, which I can tell you later tonight if you find me. All right, well, if anyone wants to get in contact with me, it's Henson at twodots.net, or find me later tonight. I'll be wandering around. So, thanks, everyone.
We're at the end of the year. It's busy times. Everybody's probably finishing budgets. We're hearing about the market tightening. We're getting bombarded with all sorts of information, great innovation, great technology. It can be a bit overwhelming. And I'm wondering, does anyone feel like this guy right here? I mean, I do. Especially when I think of when it's Sunday night. Everybody ever think about Sunday night becomes Monday morning? You're like, going to feel a little bit like that. But it's really the way we all feel with so many things going on in our world today. The struggle is truly real. We've got staffing shortages. A couple of speakers have already mentioned some of those challenges. They've continued to persist, right? So how do we try to help in those areas? How can we make things more effective for our staff? Negative customer experiences. I don't know about you, my attention span, the older I got, I used to think it would get longer. Now, shorter than it's ever been. And therefore, my expectation of experiences are greater. Well, so too are prospects and residents today. And their patience for a poor experience is just much more limited than it once was. More responsibility, less time. You would think with all this wonderful technology and innovation that we'd be able to become more efficient and we'd be able to save some time. But in fact, it just feels like we're busier all the time. Right? I hear some yeses out there. And overwhelming lead volume. You know, as you talk about specifically with prospects, we've gone through this period of time with incredible high occupancies, incredible lead volume coming from your entire digital marketing strategy. And a staff that's short staff to begin with is becoming overwhelmed by that. And the expectation of today's consumer or today's prospect is changing all the time as well. We believe leasing an apartment should be fast and it should be easy. You would think, with all the technology that's out there, that we'd already be there, but in fact, we're not, right? We know a lot of things that are happening in the market today. I know this may be a little tough to see, but specifically, at least a couple data points that we're able to share with everybody. One of the things we do is we analyze phone calls. So over 100 million phone calls analyzed over time. A couple things we know. Probably 40 to 50% of all phone calls that originate from your digital marketing strategy go missed today. That happens on a regular basis. And increasingly, we don't leave voicemails. Does anyone leave a voicemail anymore? Ever? No, right? Nobody leaves a voicemail. So we still have incredible lead volume, prospects looking for their next apartment. We've got people dialing the phone, looking for communication. We're short-staffed. Those things aren't happening. Those that do leave a voicemail, those that do send an email, those that even text are not getting the responses they want, hence those negative experiences that we talked about in the beginning. So how can we improve that? What can we do better in our overall leasing strategy to be more effective at what we do? What's available to us? Is anyone deployed any kind of AI strategies to engage with prospects or residents over the past year or two? A few? You know, I think virtual experiences are going to be here, not only are they here today, and they were driven in large part or escalated in large part by our shared experience of COVID, but they are here to stay. So if you're not really effectively deploying virtual experiences for your prospects and for your residents today, you're really missing some really significant opportunities to capture opportunity, minimize those challenges around staffing, and become more effective at what you're doing in the market today, and drive increased yield for your assets. Those are really the things that we want to focus on. So as we think about where we're going with that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about our brand ACE, which is our AI-powered virtual leasing assistant that really transcends what we're doing in the market today. It's the only one in the market today that handles both voice, text, chat, and nurtures emails that are in your CRM today. Our brand is ACE, but a lot of our customers use it in a very customized way. It's completely customizable. Look, feel, naming convention, maybe you like an accent on your virtual leasing assistant. All of that flexibility is in the market today for you to take advantage of. And it's designed to help your teams lease faster. All of these things are really attributed to not only the prospect experience, but the resident experience, but ultimately drive yield in a market that's beginning to become more challenging as well. So answering your inquiries from your prospects and residents 24/7 across voice, text, chat, all those things are available to you today. Providing immediate answers to prospects' questions. AI has come a very long way. We're now at a point where we can handle over 140 leasing questions, an exponentially growing list of resident questions as well. And so as your prospects are looking for answers when they're looking for them, and most might assume that happens after hours, but in fact, the busiest times that we see, most of those missed opportunities happen in the middle of the day. Kind of goes back to that whole short staff situation that we have in the market. We also nurture all these in your CRM. You can deploy a very effective AI strategy to capture prospects that get missed, but what about the ones who do make your property? What are the ones that answer the phone at the property, or people send in a form from your ILS partners or from your website? What happens with those? So we're also nurturing those emails, but not in a back and forth email conversation, because like me, the short attention span guy, I'm looking for immediate answers. So if I get an email, whose inbox is full right now? No, right? It's full. Nobody's responding to emails. But if you do get an email, it's something you're interested in, and having a call to action in that email to really engage in a call, a text, or a chat application from an email puts that prospect back at the top of the conversion funnel, elevates conversion rates, and really drives incremental value for your property or your portfolio. So all those things are important. I think delivering high quality leads that convert at a higher rate too. Everyone's got a large volume of leads. That's not what you need. You need the ones that convert. And how do you get there, and how do you best effectively manage that with your leasing teams? That's really what we're designed to do. And of course, filling those staffing gaps are critical. So how do we do that? ACE is designed to, as I say, handle voice, text, chat, and nurture emails, but it's really designed to be agnostic across your entire digital marketing strategy. So not just your website, your ILS partners, I know some of them are in the room here today, your social media strategy and campaigns where a lot of that engagement is happening today. The platform itself is agnostic and able to be portable and deployed to all those instances today, which make it really effective as an overriding strategy. Think of it like a funnel. Leads come in the top, but where do they go? How do we handle them? Do they get handled? Do they fall on the ground? Are they stuck in my CRM not doing anything? Deploy AI to meet prospects where, when, and how they want to engage, whether they want to dial the phone, whether they want to text, whether they want to chat, and be able to engage across 140 questions, answering their questions, moving them down the conversion funnel, turning that lead into a lease. From there, deploying AI now to handle the whole resident side of the house as well as the next thing. Leasing staffs, just like they're too busy to handle all the prospects you're getting, how important are those resident requests that are coming in? And how are you handling those when times are challenging with staffing? So all those things are there. Just this year alone, 37% of the prospects that engage with our AI become appointments for properties today. So when you think about your digital marketing channels, your marketing budgets, the amount of money you're spending, driving all those leads, what if you can incrementally increase conversion in a way that would be incredibly meaningful for the same marketing dollars? Certainly something to consider. So visually, if you just kind of take a quick look, I'll just share with you a little bit on your website. That would be like a chat experience. All of your social media channels, you can engage there too. So a prospect can call, text, chat from there. If you want to have a curated intelligent automation email, customized email correspondence, that's there with calls to action to the AI, really driving the overall value. And of course, text, right? So text across all your applications, we're seeing that level of engagement escalating dramatically here over time. So too are we seeing the phone channel. You know, it's funny, we think we don't call anymore, yet all of our ILS partners, I know Marsha over there is busy on her phone right now going through her email, would probably tell you that still a significant amount, probably 50% of the leads that are generated from their ILS originate on the phone. But also about 30 to 40% of those get missed. So pretty significant. So anytime you can deploy all that's going to be really important. So completely there in a fully automated way, as they say, integrated with all your CRM partners too. We've got over 50 integrations. There's probably not a tech stack in this room that we don't integrate with today. Agnostic in form, portable by platform, so a lot of flexibility in your overall strategy. We've also extended the reach of the platform to a lot of your ILS partners. In this particular case, it showcases apartments.com, so chat's available there, phone, text, all those things are happening. Significant lead volume from those ad sources. How do you make sure that you capture all of them and really take advantage of the opportunities that exist? All those things are in place for you today. It's a full lifecycle AI platform, prospect through residence. So think top of funnel engagement across multiple channels throughout the whole discovery process through to appointment and ultimately tour at the site. Once they become a resident, that same level of engagement happens. Tasks like service requests that can be handled by AI. Booking your electric car with Eric's company that was up here earlier today. All those things are now the next stage of resident engagement, all being handled by AI. So very exciting ecosystem of tools that are available today. Quick case study. This is a company that's got about 165 sites, have gone completely to our AI platform to handle communication, including being able to turn off their call center, significant expense for them. About 20% of pricing availability questions get handled by our AI today, really significant. Nearly 30,000 leasing questions. If you're a marketer in the room, all these questions are what people are really searching for. You can really call insights into what people are looking for and redefine your marketing strategy based on what people want. We also know that about 45% of the prospects who are engaging here are turning into an appointment for us. So significant impact for this company, not only in their prospect engagement, but think of the yield they're generating where they might have staffing trouble as well. We have customers even doing things like not staffing a leasing office on a Sunday, creating really some balance for their staff, recruiting opportunity for their leasing people, and using AI to engage and book appointments through and through. So, in the last minute here, I'm going to close with the things that I think are the most important. Add efficiency to your leasing process 24/7. Be sure that all sales or all leads get handled. Elevate conversion rates. Virtual experiences, we're all accustomed to them. It's what our expectations are today. Think of that in your digital marketing strategy as well. Add depth and flexibility across marketing, flexibility in your staffing, and efficiency around how you deploy your leasing models and some of the flexibility that comes there. And most importantly, meet today's prospects and residents where, when, and how they want to communicate. So thanks so much. If you want a little more information, here's some detail here. You can reach out and look forward to chatting with you.